Well, hello everybody, I'm LA Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we are asking ourselves just the one question, and that is what happened today and what might it tell us about the coming days. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcasted at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under the channel LA Little. If you haven't subscribed, reach up there and subscribe. Right hand corner, top of your screen. That way, anytime content's pushed, you'll get a notification that it has been. If you're interested in subscribing as a member to TA Today, if you've watched me long enough, you know that the neoclassical model really does work. It's pretty easy. Just click on Get Started. We just started up a new program here. We're making it cost effective for each and every one. This bundle, all of these goods and services, right? $19, folks. $15 if you're buying a year subscription. $15 a month. That's like 50 cents a day. If you can't spend 50 cents a day on your financial future, I'm not sure what you're going to spend it on. As far as these markets, let's take a look at the data here. So we had the bonds were up today. The dollar was up. Actually, the dollar wasn't up that much considering everything. Gold spiked up, was about 20 bucks higher, ends up about 15 higher. We had major sell-offs around the globe. It started over in Shanghai. It looks like they're already running tonight here, down slightly. They were down almost, I think it was over 6.5%. The Shenzhen was down 8%. They had the circuit breakers kick in. The first time that's happened. Hong Kong, as you can see here, is down almost 600 points, 2.7. Europe off badly, 4% on the DAX, 2.5% on the CAC. And then our markets were down 3% on the NDX at one point, ends up about a third less than that towards the end. They got a pretty good rally at the end of the day. 2.5% on the S&P. They cut that to 1.5 by the end of the day. But a pretty sound beating around the world, and it really was started in China. Had some more data out of China, 10 months in a row, declining GDP type numbers. Let me see, it was a PMI numbers, I believe, on the services this time, actually it was manufacturing start of the month. And so that concern, I was got out on Saturday night, that concern continues to eat at this market. Our own ISM numbers today were pretty bad. We got the Fed talking about one of the Fed speakers today, 5 rate hikes this year, she was saying. And yet we're looking at all these kinds of numbers. And so, when you look around the globe and you see these markets, you think it's going downtown. Well, is it? That's the real question. Let's take a look at that. We'll start here with the S&P 500 like we always do. S&P pushes down, test into that swing point low. Volume 46.1, it comes down with 43. So on the daily chart, you don't have enough to blow out the bottoms. As a matter of fact, if you're comparing to the quad witching day, you're not even close. Flips around, closes higher. This on a daily basis says it wants to go right back where it came from. If you look at the S&P and you put it on a weekly, what is it doing there? Well, on a weekly, the low today was 19.89. What does that do? That comes into the big wide price spread heavy volume bar, the top of it, 1993.5. Gets into it, right? It's going to have any kind of volume comparative to that number. This thing doesn't want to break down, at least not yet. NASDAQ. If we pop over to the NASDAQ gets under the swing point low, so it breaks one, right? That's going to put it to a sideways trend on the daily chart. Gets under the swing point low here, doing 22.1 there, doing 22.1 again. So you're hitting it with the same amount of volume, but flip it over, look at it on the on the weekly. Volume there, 484698. So you're doing not the volume, but the lows, 4847 roughly. You come into the high, 4836. So you're almost into it. You're not going to do anything near that volume. This thing also, as it tests back into that area, is saying it's not going to break it down yet. NDX, same scenario, gets under, closes back over, does break one swing point low, and so you're going to get a trend transition, but it does have the same setup. And if you look at the weekly, it's not even close to that bar yet. Matter of fact, it's basically just testing back into this nice stretch bar to the top side, wide price bar. I don't think it's even going to have the volume there. The laggard, the Russell. Now, the Russell is the one to worry about if you want to worry. You're doing 430, you're coming into 46. So on a daily chart, you get under it, you get back over it, you don't have the volume. That says it's going to flip around. And if you look at it on the weekly, the key test is the bottom of the big bar here. So we're looking at the same day as we're looking everywhere else, August 24th, except for on the weaker index, we're looking at the low of that bar. Bottom down there, 1102.58. You get under it, 1100. You get back over it. You're not going to have the volume. Even the Russell, the laggard of the group, still doesn't want to break it down either. And so when you look across all the indexes, they're all saying the same thing. They're going to try to flip it around and run it right back where they came from. Now, since we don't operate in a vacuum, we got to go overseas and see what's happening there. If we come over and we look at the DAX presses down, has some decent volume. The bars it's coming into on the daily here, it's doing about the same amount of volume. That says it can get to these lows again, the bottom of this green area you see, the support zone. That's going to be the test on it. But if you look at it on a weekly, the volumes here as it comes back into this big bar just aren't there. The top of that's 10.382. You're roughly 383. You did down to 10.248, so you got under it. You're at 10.283, so you're right at the top of the bar. You're not going to have the volume. This too says it's going to try to flip around as well. If we look at the CACs, so in France, France is popping down towards the bottom. If it does test that, it doesn't have the volume on the downside. And you look at it on the weekly, it's into the bar. Ever since the terror situation in France, France has traded weaker than Germany. But Germany's the one you got to be watching. France is just kind of pulling up the rear with respect to what's going on. The real trouble last night was over in Asia, and it was in Shanghai. Look at this big bar down. Big, massive, wide price spread bar. Don't have the volumes on it yet, but that did come in lighter volume on the way down. I suspect this is going to probably trade a little bit lower tonight. You may get another, because you just broke 3 swing points on the way down. And when you start breaking multiple swing points, even though it's on just one time frame, right? You got all of these swing points that broke. You got another one down here, right? And this bar is the one it's beaten up into. That's the one that has some decent volume on it. And so if it stays in this bar for one more day, I suspect it can trade a little bit lower as well. But big, wide price spread bar, that's a dangerous looking bar if you're long this market. Now, pull it over, look at it on a weekly, it doesn't look as bad. What does look bad on a weekly, if I'm looking at this, is that you've got kind of this rolling top that's taking place again on this index. You had the big move down, you got your bounce back up, and now you're rolling this thing back over to the backside. And if it does roll over and it gets up underneath here, right, then you got some real problems. Right now it's just rolling, doesn't mean it's going to, but you got a big ugly bar you're dealing with. The real strength is over here in this area. That's where it saved it last time. Let's see if it saves it again as it comes back in to that support zone. So that's the Shanghai. Move over to the Hang Seng. On the Hang Seng, you actually had some pretty good sell-off there as well. You can see it coming down, volume expanding. That's going to try to get into the low 2100. Look at it on a weekly. Those lows down there are the ones it's trying to come into. Probably not going to have the volume unless it really starts to escalate. At 2100 to 2865 number, that's probably where this thing can get to in a worst case situation. If I look over to Nikkei gets under swing point low. We'll look at the yen here in a second. A big part of what's happening over here is the yen. This thing's going to come back into the high of the low, or these lows potentially. So somewhere in the 17.7, 17.8.5 area. If we pull this back, push over and look at the currency markets. The currency markets are driving so much of the action in a number of these markets, and part of it is the let me see if I can find, where's the yen? There's the yen. Part of it is the dollar strength as a result of the divergent policies that are out here. But some of it just has to do with the fact that you've got a yen that actually wants to rise at this point. So the yen rolling around from bottom to top, right? And so this has began to do a very serious, a U-shaped type roll, right? And what I think is happening here is if you pull this back, these are going to go after these swing point highs. You got big highs on the way up, some big stretches. I wouldn't be surprised to see it get back up into that area, trading up into the 83 or so area. Now, if we bring over the monthly chart and look at it, that whole area is a consolidation area in this general area. If this does start to push up and try to get back up into here, boy, that Nikkei is going to take a hit. And so the real danger for the Nikkei is for this range to give to the breakout to the top side, is that would put some serious pressure back on that market. So that's where the Nikkei is. Where's the trouble? The trouble is in the Asian market. I believe that's where the risk is, in the emerging markets as well. Here's the EEM, breaks down, gets under, has some decent volume. Did 820 there, gets under with 817. It's going to do a retest regen on the way back up. It's bearish. If it can't get back over this, we're going to see more selling in this emerging market. So I think emerging market still looks dangerous. A lot of that has to do with the debt structure that's out there, and it's a good piece of it's financed in dollars. If you look at this low, that looks to be the target eventually here, and you can see it in other places too. So about $30 on the EEM. If I look over at the gold market, actually the gold wasn't that exciting. Got a decent bump up. I was going to point out the oil market. Let me grab the OIL. Here we go. On the oil market, this one pushed down and then just kind of turned around and hung. This oil market looks like it's pretty beat up. I don't think it's going to go down much more. And then finally, to wrap it up here on the OX markets, junk bonds did not sell off. Unless that oil market starts to really crumble, these look like they're going to hold. They're going to hold in this range. If they hold in this range, that also supports the notion that the general market is going to hold up okay here in the U.S. of A. So that's kind of the scenario tonight. I could go into some of the sectors, but nothing major there happening. You got some big damage, anywhere from 1.5% to 2.5% across those sectors. So it's going to take a while. And we still have, in case you have forgotten, we still have the IYT, and I'm going to put it up here on the weekly. That has a break, and it has it here on the daily and on the monthly time frame as well. And if we think about the monthly time frame and a swing point low having broke, that's where you start getting some serious danger in the market, is when this time frame starts to transition. And you're transitioning in an area that most people still, Dow theorists, look at that and they tell you, wow, we're in deep doo-doo. And so when I look at this and I look at a monthly break, even though I'm not a Dow theorist, certainly not anymore in the digital age, there is still stuff that is moved around, and a good piece of what's happening to these markets can be centered here in the transportation in terms of a clue. Where do we go tomorrow? We're going to flip this thing back around tomorrow, it looks to me. You're going to have some pressure tonight in Asia. I think the real toss-up is what happens in Shanghai tonight. If Shanghai is able to hold and get a little bit of a bounce, Europe's probably going to bounce as well, given what we looked at. And our indexes definitely want to do a reversal and head back the other way. That's it for tonight. Again, if you haven't checked us out, get started. I'll see you on the charts. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily NeoTA wrap. Have yourself a great night. Thanks for joining me. Tell some friends of yours. Let them come over and see what I do and join me and you. I'll see you next time. Have a great one. Take care and good night.